to be a delivery door to the CFR. The other door, the same size, is going to a building on the opposite street facing the opposite way. It had an address number 660. That didn't mean anything special to me, so I walked on down the street. I was talking to my photographer, and I looked over his head, and I noticed this curious little incident where two numbers were lined up one over the other. So one of those doors was 660, but the other door was 666. So I found it very interesting that the building that is directly behind the Council of Foreign Relations is 666 Park Avenue. I don't know why the Foreign Relations building did not get that number. So there are all types of games that are played with numbers, names, and symbolism. I went to Kent Island, Sunny Isle, Kent, away from Washington, D.C., and I looked around. There wasn't much there, but I was familiar with some wordplay. The wordplay was this funny word Kent, and the zip code there on Sunny Island, Kent, had 3 6s. I took note of that because here's the Kent building in New York. Please note the address. This is on 3rd Avenue. It's 666 3rd Avenue, New York. Now, several years ago, I was reading the World Almanac. It was given to me as a gift. I try to read everything I get my hands on, and I made a special mental note because the American Association of Advertisers were located at 666 3rd Avenue, New York. You may remember Samantha on Bewitched, her husband was in advertising. Her husband was not only in advertising, the boss was Larry Tate. My favorite Bewitched issue is where Samantha hypnotizes her husband. She says, "Please don't tell the world I'm a witch." She gives her husband Darren a dream, and in the dream he dreams that the boss found out that Samantha was a witch. In this dream, the boss says to Samantha, he says, "You know, with my brains and your voodoo, we could control the world." But don't get alarmed, because it's just fiction for entertainment. On the back of this building at 666 3rd Avenue, there's another building. They're joined together with concrete. This is the Chrysler building, very well known with its gargoyles on the top. In other words, 666 3rd Avenue is concreted, cemented to the Chrysler building, because this becomes wordplay. We have a number, and we have a name hidden in a name, Christ. If it's coincidence, when you get home, please dig out your Rand McNally Atlas and denote the fact that that's the number going up from Corpus Christi to Corpus Christi Lake in Texas. Again, the word Christ with Route 666. In 1944, up through 1947, this number appeared periodically in advertising. And by 1947, there was a movie made called Jassy. In the movie, there's a man named Chris who gets thrown out of the card game because he has 3 6s, and his opponent across the table also has 3 6s. But again, they were putting the word Chris, denoting Christ, by the number 666. Here's one of my favorite buildings in New York. It's very early in the morning at the break of day. If you look down the street by the skyscrapers, you can find that infamous number. I have at least 14 ads from companies that are headquartered at 666 5th Avenue, New York. I won't name them all. I'm not accusing them. I just wonder why so many companies have to be headquartered in the same building. I think it's because there's not any office space left in New York. Then again, why do some of the companies run occult words? Like one ad I have, the first 2 words are the devil. There are many of these companies, if you'll just watch real close in the fine print when you're looking at an advertisement. Here's another view. I'm at St. Patrick's Cathedral. My photographer is shooting down the street to show how far away you can get and still see this great big number. At night it glows in red neon on 3 sides. You can see these numbers glowing on 5th Avenue for at least 15 blocks. Again, we're getting closer to the building. Please note, at the bottom of this building, hidden between the skyscrapers, is some type of cathedral. I didn't check to see what denomination. I just wonder how they enjoy their service when they're underneath the shadow of this huge number. In the late 80s, there was a small newsletter that appeared in the country which included occult symbols and tying the conspiracy to the black arts. This newsletter was called Conspiracy Tracker. In one issue, they stated that the Rothschilds had an office at 666 5th Avenue. Again, on the bottom floor, please note, the name is only the name of the contractor who built this building. There was a strike the day I took the photograph. We had to wait 20 minutes to get a clean shot without the taxis. They thought it was great. They thought we were photographing the strike that day. Now, at the bottom, you can barely see it. It is the headquarters for the Italian Airlines. It is the headquarters. It is the direct route from Rome to New York. If you go down either side of the Italian Airlines, you have to go through a long hall to enter this building, and you will come to 2 sets of glass swinging doors. Now they have a guard inside. He's about 6'5". He's very well versed in body language and clinical psychology, and you may not enter the building unless you have a reason or a pass. But I want you to take a close look at one of the sets of glass swinging doors. They want you to make sure you know where you're at. This is just one set. Please notice how many times the numbers appear on the doors. Now I want you to do some more research on your own tomorrow. Please call your local librarian, tell her you're researching glass, and you need a number from the Dewey Decimal System at your library on glass. And maybe, without calling, you could guess ahead of time what number may come up. You may not enter the building. It is now closed. There used to be a very fancy restaurant on the top floor. That has been closed. This is a photograph from that restaurant. I've been in the building. Now it's a private smoke club to make sure that no one from the public can enter. I had a comic book I collected in the 70s, and it had a very diabolical message. I'm trying not to name the company that printed this comic book. The cover was a hero. He was called El Diablo. That is Spanish for the devil. This was the hero. This comic book came out every month. Are you watching what your children are reading? El Diablo was the hero. In this one particular issue, the cover of the comic book was about missing children. I'm not sure I appreciate those two things mixed together. And by the way, the comic book headquarters were located in this building, 666 5th Avenue, New York. Another comic book that came out at that time, the hero was the son of Satan. I collected as many as I could. They came out monthly, the issues. My favorite Son of Satan comic book was when the son of Satan was in an automobile traveling. He quickly turns to his friends. He says, "What day is it?" The friends reply, "Why, it's February the 2nd. He said, "It's my birthday. Quick, let's go to the state forest." Did we study the state forest earlier in Pennsylvania? He said, "Let's go to the state forest." They said, "Why?" He said, "Never mind. Quickly, drive to the state forest." Now remember, this is the hero. Confusing, isn't it, that the son of Satan would be the hero. When they arrive at the state forest, there are people wearing hoods. There's a human sacrifice going on, a black mass, and of course the son of Satan stops the black mass. Now I would like to ask you, do you know what goes on February the 2nd? And of course Americans say, oh, we have this little superstitious holiday, we have this little custom. But if you've heard some of the speakers with the Prophecy Club, they have mentioned that that is the first occult high day in the year. February the 2nd is known as Candlemas. By the way, how many days into the year are we on February the 2nd? I think it's 33. Now, a lot of the... I went to Kent Island, Sunny Isle, Kent, away from Washington, D.C., and I looked around. There wasn't much there, but I was familiar with some wordplay. The wordplay was this funny word Kent, and the zip code there on Sunny Island, Kent. Building that is directly behind the Council of Foreign Relations is 666 Park Avenue. I don't know why the Foreign Relations building did not get that number. So there are all types of games that are played with numbers, names, and symbolism. I looked over his head and I noticed this curious little incident where two numbers were lined up one over the other. So one of those doors was 660, but the other door was 666. So I found it very interesting that the building used to be a delivery door to the CFR. The other door, the same size, is going to a building on the opposite street facing the opposite way. It had an address number 660. That didn't mean anything special to me, so I walked on down the street. I was talking to my photographer, had 3 6s. I took note of that because here's the Kent building in New York. Please note the address. This is on 3rd Avenue. It's 666 3rd Avenue, New York. Now, several years ago, I was reading the World Almanac.